Sammy loved a good dare, so when his friends dared him to spend a night in the abandoned house, he laughed. He wasn't scared, not really. The house stood at the edge of the woods, a looming shadow against the setting sun. Sammy had always been curious about it. He'd heard the whispers, the stories. But Sammy didn't believe in ghosts. He told himself they were just stories. Myths meant to scare kids. He'd prove it too. He'd spend the night in the house. He'd come out in the morning, and he'd laugh in his friends' faces. Easy. The village was small, a cluster of houses nestled at the edge of a dense dark forest. The forest had always been there, the villagers said. It was ancient, full of secrets and shadows, and the house held the darkest secrets of all. The villagers avoided it. Their eyes darted nervously towards it as they hurried past. They whispered warnings to Sammy. "Don't go there," they pleaded. "It's not safe." But Sammy didn't listen. He never listened. Curiosity was a powerful force pulling him towards the unknown. He brushed off their warnings. "It's just an old house," he scoffed. "What could possibly happen?" As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the village, Sammy approached the house. The air grew cold, sending a shiver down his spine. He paused at the edge of the yard, his eyes scanning the house. It was a once grand Victorian, now crumbling and neglected. The paint peeled from the walls like scabs, and the windows were boarded up like sightless eyes. He pushed open the front gate, its hinges groaning in protest. The sound echoed through the silence, sharp and piercing. He stepped onto the porch, the wood creaking ominously beneath his feet. The door was slightly ajar and he pushed it open, stepping inside. The air inside the house was stale and thick with dust. Cobwebs hung from every corner, and the only light came from the sliver of moon shining through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. The furniture was draped in white sheets, ghostly figures in the dim light. Sammy ran his fingers over a dusty table, his skin prickling with goosebumps. He wandered through the house, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The house felt heavy, as if it were burdened by unseen eyes watching his every move. He could hear the whispers now, faint and indistinct, swirling around him like the dust motes dancing in the moonlight. Section 5. The Ghostly Apparition. He reached the foot of the stairs. They creaked under his weight as he climbed, each step sending shivers down his spine. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. They seemed to be coming from the top of the stairs. He reached the top and paused, his heart pounding in his chest. A chill wind whipped through the hallway, sending the shadows dancing. And then, he saw her. A little girl stood at the end of the hall. She wore a long white dress, her dark hair cascading down her back. Her eyes were wide and luminous, reflecting the faint moonlight. "Turn back," she whispered, her voice raspy and thin. "It's not safe." But before Sammy could respond, a cold hand clamped around his wrist. He gasped, whirling around to face his attacker. A woman stood behind him, her eyes burning with an eerie green light. Her grip was like ice, her touch sending a jolt of terror through him. He tried to pull away, but her grip was too strong. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed, her voice a low growl. "This house is mine!" Her grip tightened, and Sammy felt a surge of panic. He had to get away. He had to escape. He remembered what the villagers had said. Light. Ghosts were afraid of light. He fumbled in his pocket for his phone, his fingers trembling. He finally found it and switched on the flashlight, aiming the beam at the ghostly woman. She shrieked, a high-pitched wail that echoed through the house. She shielded her eyes from the light, her form flickering and fading. Sammy seized his chance. He yanked his arm free and ran, racing down the hallway and stumbling down the stairs. He didn't stop running until he reached the front door. He threw it open and stumbled out into the night, gasping for breath. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. He could feel the eyes on his back, watching him, following him. He didn't slow down until he reached the edge of the woods. He glanced back just once. The house was gone. Where it had stood moments before, there was nothing but an empty clearing bathed in the pale moonlight. He had escaped, but he knew deep down that he would never be the same. Sammy never went near the forest again. He avoided the villagers, ashamed of his arrogance, his disbelief. He had been wrong, dead wrong, and now he was paying the price. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that the whispers followed him wherever he went. And at night, in the silence of his room, he could hear them, the whispers. The little girl's voice, pleading with him to turn back. The ghostly woman's chilling laughter echoing in his dreams. He was haunted by the memory of that night, a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked curiosity. The house may have vanished, but the fear lingered, a shadow that would follow him forever.